All right, people. Yeah, I'm I'm on here again because I just read some kind of crazy news and I want to comment on it. And so the news is that you know coroners have revealed what Art Bell died of, and it was an overdose of prescription drugs, which he was lawfully prescribed, of course, but it was an overdose, and that's crazy. That's amazing. I didn't know he uh, dealt um, with those battles. Uh, Art Bell is one of the most amazing radio hosts I think in history. Really, there's nobody that could really match Art Bell. Art Bell was really something special. Uh, you could call onto his show and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a vampire," or "I'm a werewolf. I fucking traveled from Alpha Reticuli 1,000 years ahead in the future, and humans are fucking fine." Or whatever the case may be, you could be talking some crazy shit, and Art Bell would be like, "Okay, well, tell us about it," and he would just let you talk. Um, there was one time in the '90s when somebody claimed to be an ex-employee from Area 51. Art Bell was like, "Go ahead, talk, talk, talk," and it was like maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of this dude bugging out. And I guess later on, it was revealed that that it was all bullshit. On the part of the guy, not on part of Art Bell. But Art Bell was that kind of guy. He would let you know, talk about whatever craziness was going on in your head. And I don't think I don't think he believed it, but I think that he took pleasure in the fact that he could facilitate a platform for people to just kind of bug out and talk about whatever they want to talk about. And it was mostly paranormal, UFO, and things like that. Um, anyway, his show, I don't know if I don't think I mentioned it, but his show's Coast to Coast AM, which is usually runs from like 12 o'clock at night to like 5 in the morning. It's still on. It's actually being hosted by George Noory, and it's been hosted by George for a while. I think since the early 2000s, it's been hosted by George Noory, and he's an okay host. I like his style. Um, I've listened to quite a bit of Coast to Coast AM, and I'm telling you, look, if you've never heard this show, and I think it's got to be impossible for nobody to ever have heard this show, but I'm telling you, it's one of the most amazing shows on radio, and that's crazy. It sounds crazy because you think radio, you're like show on the radio. I mean, I personally like NPR, even though it's a bunch of bullshit. But they have good shows on NPR, you know. But then outside of NPR, your only other option is like Rush Limbaugh, and I don't even know if Glenn Beck is still around. I think he gave up a long time ago. Anyway, his the Blaze was going bankrupt, and anyway, but yeah, other than NPR, Rush Limbaugh, and a couple other like imitation Rush Limbaugh radio people, you know, Art Bell was like the next tier, and it's so crazy. I'm telling you, that show, that I can't even. You can't overstate how good that show is. Even now with George Noory, and George Noory is great, but he's not, half of what Art was. I'm telling you, and he's a good host. He's a good host. But Art Bell was like truly amazing. And it's crazy, man. But we're gonna read this article real quick. Las Vegas. Authorities in Nevada say Art Bell, a syndicated radio host best known for nightly shows in the '90s about paranormal themes and conspiracy theories, died of an accidental dose of prescription drugs. This article doesn't even mention Coast to Coast AM by name. That's so weird because it's a pretty big show. I don't even understand what why they're tripping. Anyway, Nye County Sheriff Sharon Worley posted a brief Facebook announcement on Wednesday saying an autopsy determined the 72-year-old Bell died of multiple drug intoxication from his own lawfully prescribed prescriptions, which is pretty fucked. I mean, that's crazy. Coroner John Fundenberg, okay, in Las Vegas says Bell had the painkillers oxycodone and hydrocodone, the sedative diazepam, and the muscle relaxant carisoprodol in his system. I've had oxycodone, hydrocodone, and diazepam because I'm a crazy veteran, and sometimes I either suffer from pain or I have to, be sedated because, this was in the past when I was much wilder. I'm telling you, diazepam. I think that's if I believe, if I'm correct, that's what Michael Jackson died of an overdose of that. It's powerful stuff. It's stuff that you don't want to be mixing with oxycodone and hydrocodone. But if you're at that level of mixing your medications, then that's a good indication that you've probably been fucking around with them recreationally. And I don't want to accuse the dude of anything. Definitely not here to do that. I'm not here to blame him for doing drugs. I've done plenty. I love smoking weed. I don't think that's a drug, but I've done plenty of hard drugs, so that's what it is. I'm not gonna judge anybody on that, but I'm just gonna also put it out there that if you are taking that level of chemistry, then it's because you're already used to it and you're not afraid of it. I mean, to the point where you're gonna OD, obviously, then you're not afraid of it. And that's crazy, man. And this is the thing. Okay, let me finish reading this, and then we'll, because this is not a really long article, and then I'll start, I'll put in my 2 cents. Fundenberg says there was no indication of foul play. The coroner says high blood pressure and the lung disease chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder were significant conditions in Bell's death. Bell was found April 13th in a bedroom at home in Pahrump. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about this. So, drugs, if you don't know, it's crazy. Human beings, let me not even say human beings, but animals in general, seek sensations of euphoria. It's weird. I don't know if anybody watching this is ever when I have a girlfriend, right? Usually, I'm not a sticky person, right? Meaning I'm not up somebody's ass 24 hours a day. However, when I'm having intimate moments with my partner, we'll pile on each other, I'll I don't know, we'll pile on to each other, or you want to be tight, and it feels good to feel that body of another person. And a lot of animals do that. A lot of mammals do that. It's because mammals and animals in general, but let's say specifically mammals, we seek euphoric moments, euphoric reactions. We seek out things that will cause us euphoria because we like to feel good, and we have all this chemistry in our body that reacts to all these metabolites that can cause us to feel euphoric. So it's a good thing. Now, society says that that's a bad thing. At least American society or Western society. but more specifically American society. Um, it says that if you like to see euphoria or you like doing chemistry for euphoria's sake, that there's a problem with you, and um, that's how it's treated, you know. So drug use is, it's frowned upon, and it's a very taboo thing. Now, I'm not saying that Art Bell did any of the drugs that he did because he was seeking euphoria, although those drugs, the side effects of those drugs is euphoria, if you look it up, which is kind of fucked, to be honest with you, that they would call it a side effect, like it's a bad thing. But that's the thing. Western society tends to consider drug use, except alcohol and cigarettes, if you keep them within limits, whatever the fuck that means. Uh, but other than those two chemicals, everything in coffee as well. But everything else is taboo. It's wrong. You shouldn't do it. People take pride in being sober. And look, all those things are fine. If you want to be sober, that's cool. The thing is, though, that we need to stop. We need to. We have to come up with a new approach to treating people that have these battles with drugs. Because first off, the only reason why they have these battles with drugs, with drug addiction and things like that, or the only reason that they're taking overdoses and doing things like that, is because we don't really, we've made feeling good through chemistry a taboo subject, and I think that's utter bullshit. It's crazy. It's crazy. Um, you know, it's maddening, and maybe that didn't contribute to Art Bell's death. Maybe, um, maybe he was really taking the drugs as per prescription, and then he, somehow he fucked something up, and things went wrong, and he died. Maybe that's the case. Either way, this article highlights that problem with our society's relationship to drugs. Because a lot of the reason why things go bad with drugs is because there's a general lack of education when it comes to drugs and their use, and the limits of their use, and things like that. And it's crazy. It's crazy. A lot of good people die because of our society's lack of comprehension, I guess, towards drugs and the issues that surround them. Because look, don't get it twisted. Hydrocodone and oxycodone and things like that. I mean, that's those are opiates, and they're pretty strong opiates too. Um, and opiates, opium, heroin is like the more the one that is considered the most taboo. But opiates, come in all shapes and sizes. So that's the thing that we got to be cautious about. We need to come up with new approaches to dealing with drug problems, and maybe we need to really start giving people more medical marijuana. I totally believe in that. I think that my doctor, actually, me and my doctor were having a discussion about this, and he says that there's not a lot of science backing these claims up, and that's why he doesn't issue out medical marijuana cards and whatnot, and also because he's a VA doctor, so he can't really do it. And he advises against using medical marijuana. Okay, that's fine. He is a doctor. He knows what he's talking about, and actually the reasoning behind why he wouldn't prescribe marijuana is sound scientific reasoning. It hasn't been tested yet. There's not a lot of evidence that marijuana can do the things that it claims that it can do. Okay, that's fine. But there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that marijuana is really good for you. And if we can find ways, I mean, that, we need to do more scientific research. All right, fine. Let's do it. Let's do the scientific research. You know, let's stop talking about it and actually do it. The same thing with LSD and MDMA and mushrooms when it comes to treating post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, fine. Look, hey, I personally believe that that kind of chemistry has helped me in a big way. It didn't take it all away. It didn't take all the anxiety away and things like that, but it helped me face a lot of the issues that I was actually hiding deep down inside of me. But that's anecdotal evidence. I didn't go to a doctor to get LSD. I went to a friend of mine who's a fucking dirty hippie. Who's I love the kid to death. No doubt about it. Smells like a jockstrap. Smells like a fucking interesting smells and all that shit. It's crazy. But yeah, I went, and not even my friend. I asked my friend, and then he was able to find the jockstrap smelling people that had the good LSD. Now, that's not great. That's not scientific. That's not clinical. But we're not giving these chemicals the time of day anyway in a clinical setting. I mean, they are, but to a really small extent. So, but then we're given, hydrocodone and oxycodone and diazepam, which, I mean, you heard of anybody dying of a weed overdose? No, I haven't. But I've had bad reactions to diazepam. I got my ass beat by cops once. Totally. I didn't fight them. I didn't try to fight them. They beat my ass because I was drunk, and I tried to get up, and I guess they told me to sit down, but I was drunk, so I didn't hear them. So I just got up anyway because I didn't want a whole bunch of cops surrounding me, and they beat my ass pretty severely. Put me in the hospital, and they gave me diazepam to sedate me, and I had a really bad reaction to it. A lot of it also had to do just with the ass whooping, because I caught such a big ass whooping that I mean, I was drunk, and these cops just punched and kicked the living dog shit out of me, and then they injected like 9 different sedatives, including diazepam, and I had a really bad reaction to it. And like 3 days later, I was like shaking uncontrollably, and I had to go to the VA hospital because the cops didn't even take me to a VA hospital. They took me to a civilian hospital, and they fucked me up. I was locked. I was chained up to a fucking bed, all just for being drunk. I wasn't even fucking with nobody. And I was in my sister's house. She just thought that I was dying and whatever. It's a long story, and maybe I will tell it someday soon. But anyway, I got my ass beat. 3 days later, I'm shaking uncontrollably. And it was because all the chemicals and then the ass whooping that I received were causing my muscles to atrophy rapidly. Like there was like what the hell was it? There was like creatine was like being released rapidly. My muscles were dissolving into that kind of shit, and my nerve endings were all over the fucking, from what ass whooping and from chemicals. You know what I'm saying? But if they would have just, this is the thing. Weed. Weed does it all. But it's illegal. But opiates that cause people to fucking lose their lives are totally legal. And I said I was gonna talk about Art Bell and all that stuff. And I really did want to talk about Arbel. I did a little bit, but also just the situation surrounding his death. It just makes me think about this ridiculous drug war that the government's never gonna win. But that's the thing. They're not even worried about winning a drug war. Their main concern is extracting those tax dollars. And if you can convince people that this is crazy drug war going on and that they need to pay into their fair share into taxes, that's gonna happen. But the thing about that is that the people are, with this powerful tool of the internet, people are finally starting to realize that this drug war and a lot of all the other the war on terror, all these fucking open-ended wars against concepts, people are realizing that all that is, it's just a bullshit sham, and people are dying for no reason. We are destroying our war chests. We are doing all kinds of stupid things for the sake of creating this fucking war on drugs industry, because that's what it is, And then ultimately, the people that fucking end up in jail end up as slaves, working their fucking asses off for pennies on the dollar. And think about it, they committed a fucking, for the most part, non-violent offenses, There are people going to jail for crack for years, decades and shit. Yet there are pedophiles that are doing, like, raping mass amounts of children and getting like 5-6 years in prison. And that's not unheard of. That's a thing. And that's utterly ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous that we are fighting this fucking drug war for no fucking reason. Bush tried to link it to fucking terrorism. When I was younger, man, when I first started smoking weed, after 9/11 and all these things, there were all these fucking commercials trying to link, they came up with this concept, narco-terrorism. So they're trying to link terrorism, Islamic terrorism, with narco trafficking and whatnot. And the thing about that is that it was all utter bullshit. That's not even it was all utter bullshit. And there are no fucking cartels funding terrorist organizations. Are you fucking insane? Cartels are terrorist organizations, but the thing about them is that rather than, the easiest way to defeat a fucking cartel is to make all drugs legal, because then they won't have fucking powers to monopolize the drug industry, which is what they're doing. This is a two-tier monopoly, man. You have the so-called prescription drugs, and they have their own cartels, and then you have the fucking illicit drugs with their cartels. The drug industry in general is just run by monopolies and cartels and things like that. And we need to defeat all that, because we're playing with fire. We are really playing with fucking fire here, man. Because rather than marijuana and natural herbs and things like that being the cures that people seek out, people are seeking out fucking diazepam and hydrocodone and other opiates and barbiturates and things like that. You hear kids rapping about popping mollies in conjunction with smoking weed. It's not even seen as a crazy thing anymore. And did I say Xanax or Molly? Popping Xanax. Popping Xanax. Okay. Anyway, and they rap about it like it's a normal thing. And I've indulged in the Xanax, whatever. That's my prerogative. Anyway, but it's not a good thing, and you definitely don't be doing that for entertainment. That's insanity. So yeah, we really gotta reevaluate our ideas on drugs, because those drugs that killed Arbel are totally legal. They're totally fine. But those are drugs that junkies, they do when they can't find heroin. Or rather, they do heroin when they can't find those drugs. So, yeah, this is, it's utter insanity. It's utter insanity. And, it's crazy, man. But, yeah, rest in peace, Art Bell. You're an amazing fucking guy. I'm not judging you for drugs or anything like that. I've done plenty of drugs myself. I've thought that I was gonna OD. I mean, I've done it fucking all. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's insane that you're gone, dude. And you were the best. And I thank you so much, man, for inspiring me. And yeah, man, I wouldn't be making my corny little podcasts and writing about my opinions if it wasn't for Art Bell, So yeah, just rest in peace, Art. You're a fucking badass, regardless of whatever the fuck happened. Hey, shit happens. People fucking, get used to a certain thing, and then it goes out of hand, but it's no reason to judge the dude. And yeah, I don't know. Everybody just be safe and love each other, and be nice to each other, and don't fuck around with opiates. Stick to weed, smoke weed, and hopefully everybody that is watching this is above the age of 18 and is not taking my advice on smoking weed. So yeah, or taking me serious about doing drugs. I gotta make those disclaimers, cause I don't want you blaming me for shit. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's the last recording of the night. So y'all be good, and I'll see you tomorrow.